Welcome back, Commanders. My name is Alchrist, and today I'll be briefing you on your brand new T-Doll, the elegant and beautiful Springfield. Springfield is a support sniper rifle wielding motherly T-Doll. She excels at taking Hydra teams to the next level. She has incredible sustain, utility, and even a pet bird being a menace to enemies. I will mention that in all my guides, I'll be referring to Confectant's Index as skill points, since this is much easier to understand. Springfield has 3 methods of generating skill points, all tied to her active abilities. Starting with active skill 1, Intel Manipulation, which has no cost or cooldown. She targets an enemy up to 9 tiles away and applies a Hydra debuff called False Intelligence for 2 turns. They will lose an extra 2 stability whenever they're attacked, and if there is stability broken, they will take 10% more Hydra damage. She then deals Hydra damage equal to 130% of her attack and reducing 4 stability, which is technically 6 stability thanks to her debuff. She also applies a second Hydra debuff, Congestion, for 1 turn, which prevents any healing. She then gains 1 skill point. Springfield's active skill 2 is Opportune Assistance, which has no cost or cooldown. She selects an ally within 9 tiles and recovers HP equal to 100% of Springfield's attack and restoring 3 stability. She also applies Overflowing Care for 2 rounds. This buff will heal an ally at the end of their actions equal to 5% of Springfield's attack, and for any excess healing they receive above full HP will be converted to increasing their Hydra damage. Springfield will then gain 1 skill point. Note that I mentioned Overflowing Care is 2 rounds, not 2 turns. This is important because multi-action dolls like Tololo will lose all their buffs that are turn-based. It is also important to make sure they apply this buff before the ally's turn, because it will go down by 1 regardless if they have moved or not. Springfield's ultimate is Path of Protection, which has a 3-turn cooldown. She targets an enemy and summons Tarais to follow them for 2 turns, while also applying Damp and False Intelligence to them, as well as any other enemies within 3 tiles of the target for 2 turns. She then deals AoE Hydra damage equal to 80% of her attack and reducing 2 stability. Damp is a Hydra debuff that reduces healing by 40% and turns into Congestion at 2 stacks. All allies will also receive 2 buffs for 2 turns, while also recovering HP equal to 100% of her attack and restoring 2 stability, while also removing 1 debuff on top of any taunts and fears. One of the buffs she gives is Deep Rooting Bonds, which increases their HP equal to 100% of Springfield's HP, which also heals them equal to 100% of Springfield's attack when this buff runs out. The second buff she gives is Overflowing Care, which is the same one from her active skill 2. Springfield will then gain 2 skill points. As for her bird Tarais, is actually tied to her passive, equals Vigilance. If the target Tarais' following deals damage to an ally, it will counter attack and deal Hydra damage equal to 20% of Springfield's max HP and reducing 1 stability, while also healing the ally that was attacked by 20% of Springfield's max HP. This can trigger twice per turn. Not only that, but as long as it's on the field, Springfield will recover 20% of her max HP at the end of her actions. And if the target Tarais is chasing dies, it will just go over to the next target that has the highest HP. Her passive will also consume all of her skill points when she is at 6 to grant extra action, which as implies, allows her to perform a second action. And at the start of her turns, if she is above 80% of her HP, she will gain Insight for 2 turns, increasing her ult range by 1. Lastly, Springfield's basic attack is Gentle Approach. It has a range of 9 and deals physical damage equal to 80% of her attack and reducing 2 stability. But let's be real, you're never going to use this. When deploying Springfield onto the field, the key element to playing her is buffing and sustaining her team. Her ultimate ability is incredible for allowing her fellow T-Dolls to live through attacks that would normally be problematic. Keep Overflowing Care active on your main Hydra damage dealer, which is likely going to be Tololo, so that she can get the extra Hydra damage bonus. When it comes to her rotation, start off with using active skill 2 on your Hydra carry. Make sure to use this before their turn. On turn 2, use ultimate and then active skill 1. On turn 3, use active skill 1. On turn 4, use active skill 2 on your carry. On turn 5, use ultimate. And on turn 6, you can double active skill 1. And then on turn 7, use active skill 2 on your carry. Her extra action timings cause some awkward misalignments, but the important thing is that you're keeping Overflowing Care active. You can also completely forego Springfield's damage and using active skill 1 in favor of alternating active skill 2 casts on 2 different DPS, and only slotting in active skill 1 where she can. This can work out to be more beneficial, especially if you have a second hydro damage dealer, her signature weapon, and extra fortifications. This is what her rotation will look like if she's at least V2 maintaining a buff on a second DPS. On to her pros and cons. She has incredible sustain. On top of typical heals, she increases max HP of all of her allies, which helps survivability a lot, let alone having the ability to remove debuffs as well as taunts and stuns. She has an incredible stability damage buff. Reducing an extra 2 stability from all attacks is crazy strong. She can implant Hydro weakness with a fixed key. She has really high synergy with Tololo. Feels like she was built specifically to amp up Tololo, which isn't a bad thing because these two are really great together. While she might lose out on some of her buffs, her overall kit is still really good as a sustain, and her bird has surprisingly good synergies as well. As for her cons, she requires some investment. The Springfield and Tololo pair really pops off when you have them at V1 and V2 respectively, as this is when Tololo can go wild with up to 3 actions a turn. Springfield's best weapon is the signature, Radiance. It grants attack boost, and its trait recovers 2 stability after healing once per turn. Its effect, Shared Purpose, increases hydro damage of allies by 5% and grants attack up to anyone she uses an active heal on. She also gets a bonus 15% increased HP. If you have the Battle Pass, then use the Arcana. It also has attack boost, and its trait ignores 1 stability and ignores a second if she has Insight. Its effect is Soldier's Breakthrough, increasing damage by 15% if that enemy target has no other enemies within 4 tiles of them. Otherwise, use any other elite weapons for its base stats. If you do not have any spare elite weapons, you can use her namesake, the 1903, which has the same trait as the signature Radiance, and its effect Silent Empathy increases damage or healing done to the target if they have any hydro buffs or debuffs. Otherwise, use the M1891. It has the same trait as the Arcana, and increases damage against enemies that have any elemental debuffs. When it comes to her attachments, her best substats are HP percent and HP, and then attack percent and attack. Most of her skills scale off her max HP, and then her heals are off her attack stat. When it comes to which attachment sets to farm, her best set is the Hydro Boost set, increasing hydro damage by 20%. She could use emergency repair, but she restores so much stability already that it's not needed at all. When it comes to her fixed keys, the best ones to obtain are 401 Airborne Link. When Tarise is on the field, all allies' defense is increased by 10%. 601 Behind Her Smile. Before making an active attack, she will implant Hydro weakness for the turn. Her third slot could be either 201 Intel Acquisition, which allows her to remove 1 buff from the target she attacks, or 201 Coalesced Core. When using her ultimate, she'll pull all targets within 3 tiles to the targeted location. Fixed keys 403 and 603 are situational and are not recommended for a core build. Her common key is Meticulous Attention, which recovers 2 stability if she is not at full at the start of a turn. Not really worth using, to be honest. Springfield is better off with any common key that increases health and attack, as the stat increases is better than any other current common key. Next, we'll have a quick look at the fortifications. At V1, increases the healing on her active skill 2 to 130% of her attack. More importantly, the increased hydro damage bonus from Overflowing Care is increased to up to 70%, and even more importantly, applies a buff called Shared Telepathy to the healed ally. This allows them to gain extra skill points when dealing hydro damage. At base, Springfield is a strong sustain, but at V1, she does everything Tololo needs, including the ability to act 3 times within a single turn. This is worth investing in for any Tololo enjoyers out there. At V2, her ultimate generates 3 skill points, as well as increasing healing and stability recovered, while also removing 2 debuffs and any stuns and infatuated. This removes her awkward rotation, as this allows her to ult with extra action every 3rd turn. At V3, the enemy with Tarise and any enemies within 3 tiles of Tarise will take 10% increased hydro damage. While he's on the field, allies will deal 40% more hydro damage with any out of turn attacks like action supports. He will also gain the ability to deal his own action supports when allies deal hydro damage twice per turn. Damage dealt from the action support is equal to 20% of Springfield's max HP and reducing 1 stability. In other words, Tarise now has the potential to attack 4 times a turn, twice from action supports and twice from counter attacks. Each one of these will also heal an ally involved in the attacks. At V4, the active skill 1's multipliers increase to 150% of her attack, and the bonus hydro damage from a debuff False Intelligence is increased to 20%. Congestion will also turn into Cold Snap. Any healing they receive will instead be turned into fixed damage. At V5, the buff Deep Rooted Bonds will now reduce damage taken by 15% and now last 3 turns. The affected area of Torais is increased from 3 to 4 tiles, and Torais will also stay around for an extra turn. If the target Torais was following dies, all enemies within 4 tiles will suffer fixed damage equal to 40% of Springfield's attack. And at V6, Torais goes Super Saiyan and turns into Assault Torais. Most of its effect doubles, including damage, buffs, stability damage, healing, and even times triggered. It also now adds vulnerability analysis, increasing hydro damage taken by 5%, stacking up to 15%. To finish off, we'll have a quick look at suitable teammates to field along Springfield. The most obvious partner is Tololo. As previously mentioned, these two basically go hand in hand. Once they're at their best fortification breakpoints, being able to act 3 times per turn every turn is crazy damage, especially on top of Springfield's hydro damage increasing multipliers. To complete the hydro team, we currently also have Sabrina and Xiao Hui. A really good pair outside of hydro is QJ. Torai's counterattacks will trigger QJ to follow up with the action supports, so you can actually field Springfield within a fire team. Otherwise, Springfield is just a really good sustain in any other team. Here are some examples of team compositions. And that about wraps up this character briefing for Springfield. I hope this guide helps, and if you have any other suggestions on a build or teammates, make sure to leave a comment below. Until next time, Commanders.